Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker.
Full Tilt Poker.
Phil Gordon was our guest last week.
Yes.
A multifaceted young man.
He's a raconteur.
He's a raconteur, but he's a legitimate player, but he's also, just from his Bravo celebrity poker, he's like known by people who don't know anything about poker.
He's a known guy.
He writes, he seems to be pretty active and like to do stuff. So if you missed part 1, look for it on Card Player TV so that you can catch up. And we're going to have part 2 with Phil Gordon today.
See, I'm jealous of Phil, but I still like him. I think that a lot of people run into trouble because they get jealous, and then for some reason that makes them dislike someone. It's like, you didn't take your stuff out of my pocket, so why would I dislike you for it?
Well, you know, I think success in different arenas, you know, breeds contempt.
Like even our tiny notoriety, you know, we have haters. Now,
yes.
You are probably...
You have haters?
Yeah.
Come on. I don't believe it.
Adam,
who could dislike you guys?
Adam has...
You're two of the most likable guys in poker.
Yes.
Adam has
Diego's likable.
Adam has a strong group of haters who follow him around.
Well, you know...
Yeah.
Who
Well, you are an overrated donkey.
Yes.
Who resent...
Thank you. That must
Who's
be
never
you.
done anything.
Every time Adam appears on ESPN, the resentment bubbles.
But you know, one of the things I pride myself on is that I will go right back at people in the chat on Full Tilt, but only if they're rude. Like I'll talk to all my many fans as well, but I don't restrain. Well, I don't.
Here's the thing that I don't understand about the forums, right? You know, I think I've, you know, done pretty well by the world of poker. You know, I mean, I've encouraged a lot of people that might not have otherwise played the game to play the game, most of whom are going to be donkeys. You know, I've written 3 pretty decent books. You know, I've started a charity effort that's raised $2.5 million over the last 6 years.
Right.
You know, that wouldn't have done otherwise, and yet all they want to do is talk about how I'm an overrated donkey. And here's, you know, it bugged me for quite a while until my wife banned me from reading the forums.
Right. That's healthier.
You know. But I don't understand how you can be an overrated donkey and win $2.5 million in poker tournaments
Final table.
and not even play. I mean,
But
it's not
also-
like I'm playing full time or anything. I haven't played a World Poker Tour tournament in 5 years.
But the other thing that I don't get is, even if you were an overrated donkey, then why is that?
How does that
a bad
hurt
thing?
me?
I'm still an overrated donkey with $2.5 million in tournament winnings.
How does that hurt me?
But also, how is that like something that you want to spend your time criticizing and knocking down? I mean, we have plenty. I shouldn't say plenty, but we have people who are dishonest or who are just bad actors at the table, or even guys who just celebrate too much. Point your finger at them. I mean, just because someone is, and this I even look back at Adam, where people will say, you know, what's he done? How much has he won? And he's on TV. Well,
what's the relevance of that?
And what's wrong about that? How does that make you a bad person?
Look, it's all about the right time, being at the right place at the right time. You know, there's a great book, Gladwell's Outliers, that I think is extremely indicative of what's happened in the world of poker. You know, I was in poker at the right time. I happened to have my first success at the right time. It's not like I'm some world beater, and I've never contended to be one of the best players in the world. I mean, you know, you don't see me playing in the 100, 200 cash games on Full Tilt. I know what my limitations are. I know I'm not a spectacular cash game player, and I know I'm a winning tournament player. I've never had a losing year. I've been playing poker at a pretty serious level for, 10 years. I've never had a losing year. There are not a lot of players that can say that, I would imagine. But, the thing is, like Outliers, right? Bill Gates is rich in large part because of where he was born and the opportunities that he had.
And coming along exactly at the right time.
Coming around at exactly the right time with exactly kind of the right mentorship available to him. And I think, in large part, my case in poker is really no different. I came in 2001, 2002, where I had all my success. On TV with a decent backstory. At Aruba, the third event on the World Poker Tour. If you won one of those first events on the World Poker Tour, you were a made man.
Right. Now,
that one in particular
you're a made man,
was kind
right?
of a crazy one where they had the pro division, the amateur division. You played Yuha. And
of course.
He made Yuha.
Playing.
Yuha's a better player than me.
The crazy thing was, Yuha was the amateur. Now he turns out to be world-class, great player.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just like, this amateur's beating up on Phil Gordon.
Look, when I knew
showed up.
when I played Yuha, I knew he was a better player than me.
Right.
Of course, playing heads up in that structure with 50 big blinds to start,
crazy structure,
and he flop top pair every time. You know, I play heads up very aggressively, like most players. I think almost anyone would have gone broke quickly. That doesn't take away anything from Yuha.
Of course,
he's turned out to be, you know, an unbelievable player. But the point is this: like, if you were there at the right place at the right time and one of those early people to win and get yourself recognized on TV, everything that's happened since then was a result of that.
You've been living off that for 8 years, Phil.
Of course I have.
Good for you. Now, Yuha could not throw a golf ball in on the fly. You know, I think about that all the time.
Here's the story that you don't know about that. Now, I'm going to preface this with I'm an atheist. I have been since I'm about 8. Okay, but the woman that taught me to play poker and is probably the most influential person besides my parents in my entire life was my great aunt. And I'd been at her hospital bedroom and at her bedside in the hospital for the previous week before Aruba. And she was dying of cancer and, you know, basically said my goodbyes, went to Aruba, hoping that she could last through the week and I could basically fly back.
Knowing this could be
knowing that it, knowing it could be the last time that I saw her, but got to Aruba, you know, we're out on the golf course. I throw the golf ball in, my phone rings, and my aunt had died literally 5 minutes before I threw a golf ball in for thousands of dollars on television from 90 yards out. I mean, that's a little coincidental for me. Like I say, I'm still an atheist. But
it's coincidental.
Whatever you want to think about that, whatever you want to think about that, it's interesting. I'll just put it that way. I just think it's very interesting.
I was for the past couple of days when we've known we're going to be talking to Phil. I've been thinking about how hard it must be to. First of all, throwing a golf ball 90 yards is not trivial.
Yeah, my arm's still messed up.
Yeah, I mean,
I really tweaked my elbow pretty good with that.
I don't recall. Did it like bounce and roll into the cup?
The first bounce was about 65 yards, and it basically roll, hit the flagstick and dropped in for birdie.
How many times do you think you'd have to throw?
100,000.
Yeah,
I think it was probably 100,000.
You could spend the rest of your life, and even a man of leisure like yourself, who lives
I think it was 100,000 to 1.
Like me, you've got a hole right by your house. You could go out all you wanted. You still couldn't.
And Helmy still talks about it. I mean,
it's amazing.
It was.
And the fact that Phil is.
And it's filmed. I mean, come on. I mean, how can you be actually on camera and have that happen to you?
And that Phil is the victim. That you're.
And then I bust him out of the tournament the next day.
Right.
And then I bust him out of the tournament the next day. I mean, it was just like a perfect storm. It was unbelievable.
I read both your blue book, your little blue book of poker, and your little green book. I think they're excellent.
Thank you.
I was trying to. They're in a box somewhere, but I wanted to buy them on Kindle. Not available. You have to get on that. Those were very successful for you, were they not?
Actually, the first one, the black one, was the most successful.
I just have the blue.
Yeah,
and the
black one, the Poker the Real Deal. It's been retitled the Black Book, but Poker the Real Deal was the first one that came out, and that hit the market at just like the primo time. That was like the absolute peak of poker's popularity, and that sold probably 200,000 copies worldwide. The green book has done maybe 150, and the blue one maybe 100.
That's a lot.
But the green one, interestingly enough, has been translated into about 12 languages. And one of the things that I really like is I get copies of all the different translations, and seeing your book like in Hebrew and Portuguese and Italian and Swedish and and Dutch and Japanese. It's a really interesting thing.
I like the books. I like reading poker books, and I'm not sure exactly.
Gus Hansen's book is excellent, by the way. I don't know if you...
Well, we talked to him here on the about it.
I mean, don't ever try to play like that, but... I
don't think Gus should try to play like that.
I don't think you should. Somehow he gets away with it, but I thought it was an excellent book.
See, this is the point we made with Gus, and this is how it differs from your book in the sense that Gus's book is a very dangerous book. It's kind of like when Doyle Brunson first wrote Super System, and people said, well, you're giving away your secrets. 95% of people were trying to apply his secrets without knowing how to do it. And with Gus's book, you might have a lot of people influenced to play every hand and defend every blind.
I mean, look, I'm in the big blind. Someone from middle position raises. I think I'll call with King 5 getting
Queen 4.
Oh, come on.
Now I don't have anything, but I'm going to make a play. You know, people are going to really hurt themselves. Whereas with your books, they're at a good middle ground where they're not introductory, but they have advice that any player can follow and improve.
All I wanted to do with the books is pretty simple. I wanted to take someone who'd never played before, and if you read the books and apply the principles, become a break-even or better player.
Right.
You know, and not only that, but learn to think for yourself. Because what I say early on, and what I've said, you know, when I teach at the World Series of Poker Academy, or you know, at the Full Tilt Poker Academy, is this: there is not one correct way to play. You know, just because I play this way doesn't mean that it's the right way to play. You have to find a style and a way to play that suits you. And but if I can teach you how to think critically about the game and ask yourself the right questions at the right time, then you can become a better player.
Well,
and
the other thing is, even if there was a single correct way to play, it's not as if it's a static game. So
right.
every single hand is different.
Right.
You have different opponents. You have different histories
right.
leading up to that hand. So you have to have a philosophy and a way to assess and analyze every hand,
right.
because every hand is different. Even if it's the same hand, now this guy is on tilt, or now this guy's chip stack is lower or higher, and that's going to affect how the hand develops.
In one of those, I don't remember whether it's green or blue, but you talk about at the time the best online player in the world. I can't remember what acronym, and I know who you're talking about, but that's not important. But you know, and it did seem at the time that his play was very difficult to exploit, and he was rolling over the games, the big games at the time. But then a whole other generation of kids came, and he...
I think that guy hates me now.
Really? Just because you pointed that out in the book?
Well...
Or because people read the book and began to exploit him.
His strategy at the time, you know, he was just murdering the games, right?
Right.
Absolutely murdering the games, but I don't think people had seen as many hands as maybe I'd seen, and, you know, I think I called out a strategy that would dominate that strategy, even though it was tough to dominate, and I don't think he's had a very good time of it since. But
I think that part of it is that
and people just got smarter. Look,
people got a lot smarter.
The games now are unbelievably more difficult.
They're exponentially more difficult
than they were 5 years ago when he was killing it.
Right.
I mean,
I think he's
actually
doing well again, but not necessarily in the biggest game.
There are just so many good players at all levels. I mean, you can play in a 2-4 game online and find, you know, four players that can beat you.
I think that's one of the biggest differences. We were talking about when we first started playing, and even
my
before
God,
that,
it was like
when I used
printing
to play
money.
against
Right.
Rafe.
It was printing money.
But I think one thing also was that there really were gigantic differences as you moved up level to level, because if anyone was a good player, they were just going to move up, and if someone was still playing at low limits, it was because they weren't capable of playing any higher limits. Now, they might be a brilliant 19-year-old who is just building the bankroll, and we know that it's a slow process at first.
Well, it's not slow anymore. You can play 4 games at once.
Or they're playing 30 games
But it's still relatively
right.
slow in the sense that if you're starting out, if you're a college student, you're starting with a $100 bankroll, you're not going to be playing 1,500 blinds right away. But these guys are very smart, and they're very educated.
And there's so much more. There's so many more resources for them than there ever was. You know, when we were quote unquote, you know, the young kids learning. You know, we all started to write about the same time, playing the game seriously. And the only book that was available then was Super System. We didn't have Card Runners, which I think is an excellent site. You didn't have any of the educational sites. You didn't have, you know, a lot of people that you could talk to in an intelligent way about the game.
You didn't have the forums,
right?
In which, apart from the hating, there's a lot of good material exchanged on the forums.
Yeah.
Right. At the time,
I just wish I could read the forums and learn without.
You need someone to filter them. You
right.
need to hire a filter.
I need to hire an assistant that can go through and remove all the Phil Gordon hate mail.
Now,
and just give me the good nuggets.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And we've had Phil Gordon here for 2 parts, and we're going to extend to him the rare 3rd part invitation.
he deserves it. He's got a lot of potential.
He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of stories. Anytime that we can just tee up the guest and he can tell us a lot of good stories, we like it. So we'll be back with him next time. And write to us at thescoop@carlplayer.com in the meantime.